go to, and I'm certainly not saying that this is what happened in the children case or anything like that with the justice system. But then if you're all angry and all that, well, that affects things. When you go before a judge, whether it's administrative, civil, criminal, family, whoever. If you go before a judge and you're all angry, well, that gives the judge a lot of reason to think that you're a less capable person, because a
Right.
cap
And you
because
can't.
a confident person, number one, a confident person knows that if they're feeling angry, they need to keep it to themselves, and they also know that when they're in a courtroom, they need to be respectful of the judge. So that
No,
I'm not saying that that's what happened, but that's kind of what I'm suspicious of for some reason.
I don't. It had nothing to do with anger, but
Well, good.
but we do have anger issues, and it is important not to take our anger out on other people. I'm one of those people. You are not allowed to be angry around me, and
Mm,
what I mean by that is I'm not gonna berate you for being angry because I understand. People, I mean, people have feelings. It's an emotion, and everybody gets angry sometimes, and you shouldn't hold it in because you will explode. Find somebody to vent to, and once you vent, you get it off your shoulders. um Move on. And if you need someone to vent to, call me. You can vent, and no one leaves my conversation unhappy. if you um if you're if you're unhappy when you leave my presence, you just want to be unhappy. Okay, I'm one of those people. There is nothing that a chocolate chip cookie and a hug cannot fix. I am a happy person, and I'm going to make you feel better one way or another. It's
well,
okay to be angry, and it's actually one of the phases that blind people go through. I always
yeah.
say we go through maybe three different phases. It's the self-pitying, sad, depressed
Mhm.
phase, the angry phase, and then the last phase that I call your mama phase. And that's when you start getting, like, you get into your zone where you're confident in yourself and nobody's going to stop you from doing what you want to do and living your life. And when you go into stuff like we were talking about the courtroom, I went in there fully prepared to have to fight for this child. Thank God I didn't have to fight. I didn't have to argue with anyone or anything like that. I had a great lawyer who, and it helped that my baby was happy and healthy and whole, and I never had to take her to the emergency room for anything. But I went in there confident but prepared to have to fight and argue my point. And if I had to fight and argue my point, it was not going to be in anger. I was going to do it while educating you. That's how you argue your point. You educate people. They need education because people
Yeah.
don't know. So don't be angry at them. We were talking about how blind people feel like people don't approach them very often, and I've seen things that people write on Facebook, and I've met some blind people, and they don't want you to come up to them and tell them that they're amazing. I'm just a normal person. Quit complimenting me on crossing the street. This is a sign of anger. It tell me that I'm awesome from cross. I'm freaking awesome. Yes, I crossed this street with my eyes closed. High five. I didn't even get hit by a car. Yes, like I'm one of those people. I don't mind you giving me a compliment. I don't mind you asking me questions. Now, everybody's not like that. So if you meet a blind person who doesn't want to answer questions, or who just don't want you to say anything to them, don't say anything to them, but don't assume that all blind people are that way. It is our job to educate people. And you can't educate a person in anger because they're going to reject that education and they're going to put you in that handicap box. You can't, you know what I mean? They're going to put you in that box over there. Um, like, oh, this person is just so nasty. And yeah, you know, so yeah, deal with
You're
your
you're a
anger.
hundred you're 100% you're 100% accurate. You're 100% correct. So I completely agree. You said that you're also a motivational speaker. Can you tell us how you got into that? A lot of blind people are motivational speakers. What do you do?
It started off in high school, and we had a required reading. I don't know if they still do it, but it was always Helen Keller, our required reading. And they didn't have the book in Braille. They didn't have it on tape. This was like a lot of years ago, and they didn't have anything that I needed. So they watched the movie, they read the book. I kind of got the highlights of the story. I've never actually read Helen Keller's story, but I got so many highlights that I felt like I read it. And they had to write a paper in class. So my English teacher said, you know what, instead of you reading a book and writing a paper, why don't you come in and talk to the class about how you do things around school and at home and everything. So I was like, okay. I was a little bit reluctant. I was kind of scared to do it, but I did it. And once the class was over with, I heard a girl, they were walking out, everybody was leaving the classroom. And this girl said, you know what? She's amazing. And if anybody messes with her, I'm going to handle it for her. And I was like, wow, like that made her feel differently about me. And he asked me if I wanted extra credit. I was like, yeah. He was like, can you come back and talk to the afternoon class? And then another English teacher came and got me. And then after I graduated, my sister took me to her English class for extra credit. And then she had me come to a daycare she was working at. And then it went on from there. I volunteered to go to schools. And it ended up going from me being just an advocate for blind people to me motivating people to be a better them. And I was not talking to blind people. I've actually never spoken in front of a room full of blind people. I've always spoken to a room full of sighted people. I've done seminars and things like that. And it's always to speak to sighted people. And those are opportunities for me to educate these people on how we live normal lives, you know, or just how we live and everything. And I always take my daughter with me, so that they can see like this baby is very well taken care of, and she knows, she kind of understands that I'm blind. She's only 4, so she understands as much as a 4-year-old can understand. But that's how it just took off from that little class in high school. I'm trying to monetize it because it's mostly been volunteering. And I'm kind of hoping that someone sees me and says, hey, I want to pay you to come and talk for me. But it's rewarding to even be able to speak to people and hear people as they're leaving, like, wow, I got to get my stuff together. If this blind person can do so much with her life, I know that I can. You know what I mean? I love doing it.
Well, that's great. That's really, really good. I'm sure that there are ways of monetizing that type of thing, but that can be a little bit difficult. Yeah.
And a lot of times, I mean, even with people who are doing motivational speaking for other reasons, it's getting out there and getting known. And a lot of times, the motivational speakers have books written, which I'm working on one. So they have a book to promote or something like that. So I'm working on all of that. But like I said, I don't mind just speaking to people. I love to make people feel good however I do. It could be one on one or in a room full of people, but you are not going to walk away from me feeling down. If you came in here down, you're going to leave with a smile. And if you don't, I feel like my job was not done properly.
Mm. Mm. That's really, really, really impressive and really accurate, and really it's a really, really perfect message to teach people in the world. Well, you know, one of the things you could do is, start a podcast. That's certainly one. Do you have a podcast?
I don't have a podcast. My friend who does some of my shows with me, Anthony Parker, he told me last night. He said, you're very knowledgeable and you talk a lot. You need a podcast." So he told me last night, and I said, well, maybe I'll look into getting one.
Yeah, you should look into Anchor. It's a great place to start. It's free. It's very easy to send out your material and to slowly grow your following for sure. Hmm.
So it's something that I will look into.
Yeah, definitely. If you have a friend who you'd like to podcast with, that's good. That person can help you, can show you, maybe if they're on Anchor, they can show you how it works. But I would highly recommend that particular software. There are many others that you can work towards, but it's all you have to pay for it, and Anchor's free. So there's a lot of free ways to get your message out there, and then basically you just have to keep working hard
Yep.
until you see results, until somebody notices. It's very hard to get people to watch and notice, though, so that can be very difficult. Hmm.
That's fine, but it's a start. So that's
Yeah, any start in the right direction is like a start. That's good.
mhm.
Yeah. So and when you are not doing these motivational speeches, what other activities do you do?
I am a stay-at-home mom. I have a 4-year-old who will be 5 in a few weeks, and that is a lot of work. Believe it or not, people don't know that being a stay-at-home mom is really hard work. I work out every day. I occasionally go to. They have a place here called the Blind Center. I go there for a yoga class once a week. I am currently taking some classes through Hadley, some business classes through Hadley. So I'm doing that online. I'm involved in church. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm the vice president of the Southern Nevada chapter of the NFB, and so I work with them. I right now I'm putting together our first annual Black Tie White Cane event. It's a fashion show and auction to raise money for our chapter of the NFB for some scholarships and things.
Hmm.
So I'm very involved in community service. Anything that I can do to keep busy because a bored Jennifer is a depressed Jennifer. So Jennifer always has to find something to do. I spent a lot of years doing nothing. I worked for Marriott for about 5 years, and I went to school for massage therapy for 2 years. And after that, I kind of just was in limbo, and I was like that for a very long time. And I just nothing was happening in my life, and I got really depressed to the point that I just didn't want to be around anymore. I was kind of laying around and doing nothing, and I realized that I have to go out and do something so that I won't. No one's responsible for my happiness. I'm responsible for my happiness. So I had to get up and get out and start going out into the world and doing what makes me happy. I love going to the theater, and I will go to the theater alone. I'll go to the movies alone. I'll go out to eat alone. I don't have a boyfriend or a husband or anything. I don't have very many friends. And so a lot of things I do have to do alone. And it doesn't bother me to do those things alone because I'm responsible for me. I can, if I'm taking an Uber, I can leave when I'm ready to leave. You know what I mean? If I'm taking paratransit, I have a scheduled time, but I plan what I'm doing around paratransit. I have very supportive parents. So when I'm in Las Vegas, my mother and I will go to the store sometimes. When I'm in St. Louis, I hang out with my dad and a few friends and cousins. So I had to get myself together. No one was responsible for that. So I had to pull and I'm a spiritual person. I pray. So it between God and me, we moved me along. We moved me along. So I do a lot now.
And that's great. That's great. And do you go to NFB national conventions at all? I haven't been to one in a long time.
I have not attended one yet. And it's so unfortunate. I don't have the money to do it yet. I'm hoping that I'm able to do it next year. And what I would say was, unfortunately, they had it here last year, and I was out of town that week. I didn't realize that I scheduled a trip to St. Louis for that month, the same time they were having the convention, and that would have been perfect for me because it was right in the city, and I didn't have to get a hotel room or anything. But I wasn't in town. It's people describe it all the time, and it sounds like it's an awesome event. So I'm hoping that I'm able to go next year.
Hmm. Yeah, I've been to a couple. I think it depends on if you're interested in the activities and the meetings that they're having.
Hmm.
Um, I think if you want to network with other people, it is a good way to try to do that. Um, but as we were saying before, a lot of the blind people, in my opinion, who go to these conventions, some of them are quite grouchy and quite of that angry crowd. So you got to be careful about that.
Hmm.
But but there are some very kind people in our community, just like any community. And
Hmm.
I'm in. Hello.
Yes, I'm listening. I'm sorry.
Oh, oh, no, no problem. I'm in a lot of communities, and there's always one grouch. There's always one angry person in every
At the very
community.
least, there's always one or two or 10. Yeah, there are
Because
always a few.
that's a side effect, I think, of our society and of people being in groups and things like that. And well, that is interesting. I've never been to St. Louis or Nevada. What or Vegas? What can you tell our listeners about, in general, outside of the entertainment? How is Las Vegas for blind people as it relates to, accessibility and ease of transport and getting around that city?
Their paratransit system, I do like. A lot of people don't like it. I've never had any problems with paratransit, and again, it might be because of my personality. I'm not. I'm a pretty friendly person, and so the drivers are pretty friendly with me and everything. Um, Walking around here is not very accessible. There are very few sidewalks. They have very large streets to cross, and they have these drains. I don't remember what they call them, aqueducts or something like that. Um, because they have flash floods here, a lot of people they
Hmm.
tell people not to walk in them. They're like tunnels because people get drowned in those. So you have to be careful not to walk underneath because even though it doesn't rain here often, when it does rain, the sky just opens up. It's like a lot of rain when it does rain here. So it's not very accessible as far as walking around. I usually take paratransit or Uber, and like I said, I haven't had any problems as far as that goes. St. Louis, I always have my dad in St. Louis. I only lived there for 8 years, and that place didn't seem all that accessible as far as anything was concerned. They have certain buildings that people with who have physical handicaps have to live in because their apartment buildings all over the city are not accessible. They have steps leading up to it and no ramps and things like that. St. Louis is a little bit behind in everything. I was raised in Cleveland, Ohio. And because I was raised there, I know a little bit more about Cleveland. Cleveland was very accessible. They were very accommodating. It's like if they didn't know, once you got there and you talked to the people anywhere that you went, it was like, okay, we have a blind person in the building. They come here regularly or they live in the building. We're going to make sure that we get them taken care of. And I think that anywhere that you go, as long as you let them know. What made me start going out more is that my brother encouraged me, and he said, anywhere that you go, call ahead, let them know that you're blind, you're coming. They want your money, so they're gonna accommodate you. Tell them you need someone to meet you at the door or meet you in the lobby or something. And
Yeah, yeah, you
that
talked about that, and you talked about that in your video that I watched, where you said that people, that companies want your money. Well, you're on one hand, you're right. On the other, there's a lot of companies that are not run well, and that really, quite frankly, don't deserve any money because they're run so poorly. So it tends to depend on the company.
It does, and
Um,
if that company is not accommodating, then they just lose a customer. You move on, and hopefully, it's not the only company that's doing what you want to be done. But again, I haven't run into any issues yet as far as that goes. And I said yet because, like you said, there are some companies that are not accommodating. But there are people who are not complete and total a-holes.
Yeah, yeah. Mixed bag, mixed bag. We got plenty of people on all sides of
Yep.
the story. Yeah, and it might be, and I'm glad that you're able to live in Nevada because I think probably people are a lot kinder on that side of the country. Come on
Oh
over
no,
to the.
I wouldn't say that. They are very nice here. I think I pointed that out to my mom. I said these people are really nice, and I was surprised. I wouldn't say that they were nicer on one side of the country than the other.
Well, and yeah, and I mean maybe not. I mean you have a point, but what I am saying is I think people from different parts of the country interact with the disability community in a slightly different way, just based on their attitude.
Yeah.
Um, people in the east on the East Coast are more likely to be more bureaucratic. There's more bureaucracy in the
Mhm.
East. I mean, there's bureaucracy in every state, but there's bureaucracy everywhere. But there's certainly more of it near the capital and near Washington D.C. So I think it does slightly depend on the state because each state is a little different.
Mhm.
Hmm.
But people like you said, they're very polite here. I haven't run into any impolite people.
Well, good. I see. Well, I think you're very lucky for that. I think in all of our states we have very polite and very impolite people.
And
So.
again, I think it has a lot to do with your attitude and how you present yourself too. Like I said, people they might start. When I was working for Marriott, I would get hostile callers. I was in reservations, and they started the conversation hostile. They are angry about something that went wrong with their reservation. They call and they want to speak to a supervisor immediately, and they're ready to cuss me out and go crazy. And I'll go in. I'll say, okay, I'll transfer you to my supervisor. Let me see if I can fix this for you first, and I'll go in and take care of whatever they need, or if I can't take care of it, I'll get someone who will. And by the end of the conversation, they're like, you know what? I wish I had you in the first place. Thank you so much. Because like I said, I handle everything with a smile, and you are not allowed to be angry around me. I'm not going to let you do it. Don't be angry. So I think
Hmm.
everything has, I think it has a lot to do with your personality and how you present yourself to a person. If you are automatically angry, if you're coming off hostile or sad or anything, it's gonna make people, which how you feel, um, it's gonna make people avoid you, or they're gonna be angry because you're angry. I go in like, hey, I'm Jennifer, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna let you be angry. Even if I can't help you with something, I'm gonna either try to find a way to help you or find somebody else who can make some suggestions. We're gonna do something to turn that frown upside down. You're not gonna be angry around me. You're not gonna be angry around me. I will go as far as I met a lady who just she met a girl who was really angry in a store, and she looked at her and she walked up to her and she gave her a hug, and that made that lady's day. And over Christmas, there was a lady behind me. She was so mad. She was just wasn't in the spirit, and she was really close to me. I could feel her breath on the back of my neck, and it was just I just turned around and gave her a hug, and I said, if you're gonna be this close to me, you're gonna have to give me a hug. And my mom, on the other hand, she will get mad if somebody's that close to her line, and she'll be like, can you back up or something like that. Like I said, I got this personality. Like, okay, if you're gonna be this close to me, you're gonna have to give me some sugar. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna let you be angry around me. And my mom was like, why would you do that? She said, don't do stuff like that. She said that lady did not look like she wanted you to touch her. I said she probably didn't want me to touch her, and I didn't want her breathing on the back of my neck. So both of us are gonna have a Merry Christmas. And
Exactly. Exactly.
when
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
left the store, the lady was coming out behind us, and she said, "God bless y'all." And I looked at my mom. I
Yeah.
said, "See, she's not
Right.
mad. She probably didn't want me to touch her, but she's
Mm.
not angry about it. She's okay, and she'll probably tell somebody today, hey." This perfect stranger just turned around and gave me a hug in the store.
What was that thing you said earlier about something about a smile? You said something, and I'm going to use it as the title for the episode because it was such a good quote. Take life with a smile, have a smile. What did you say about
I,
smile?
I said turning a smile upside down.
No, 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 not that.
Um, oh, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Oh, maybe it was when I was saying that I was I said that there's nothing that a chocolate chip cookie and a hug can't cure.
No, no, it definitely wasn't that. It definitely wasn't that. But that's a really good attitude. To have about life. You know.
Yeah. You know what, Aaron? I am walking outside and I have to get my daughter off the bus. But I was really happy to speak to you, and hopefully we can do this again one day.
Well, we at Aaron's Show want to thank you. This was a great episode. And I'm sure listeners from all over the world, we can certainly turn all of our frowns upside down from all over the world. Thank you. God bless you. And you're always welcome on Aaron's Show.
Thank you.